Electric Cafe.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Electric Cafe. In this video, this will be an introduction video to an artist called Chris Brann, who does a lot of deep house and future jazz music. And I'm going to start, one of the things I'd like to do with the videos and the playlists, and I'm hoping someday YouTube will adjust and so this can be done. I want to put playlists, but I also want to put folders. So like, for example, for Chris Brann here, you know, I'd like to make a Chris Brann playlist, but I'd like to make a folder and then put all his videos inside. That way, when you go into the playlist for like deep house or house music, you can see his. And if you're interested in seeing his reviews or my reviews of his music or hear his music, you can go in there and then see all of the videos that I've done for him. I'd like YouTube to be able to do that. Right now, as far as I know, I really haven't looked into it too much. Maybe you guys can help me. But as far as I know, you just can do playlists, and every playlist, you know, has that. So I really can't put a folder inside of a folder, if you know what I mean. So I would like to do that because my goal is for pretty much every artist I'd hope to do this for. I'd like to do an introduction video, have their videos, and then also do related videos to them. So they're all in one nice compact folder, and inside will be possibly, you know, my top 10 songs by them, my top 10 albums, and things like that. So hopefully that's the goal. I'd like to do that. That way the videos are a little bit more organized in the playlist, because right now, even though I have 10 playlists, they're a pretty wide array of genres. I mean, some are, you know, just electronic music. That's the catch-all for anything that's not. In the other ones, I also have just one playlist for rock, pop, and punk, and that's pretty wide. And even though that, you know, I'm more of an electronic channel, it's still pretty, you know, I'd like to be a little bit more exact when that way, you know, people that come to the channel and look at the playlist, they can find things a little bit more easily. So hopefully I can be able to do that. So one of the things I'd like to do inside the introduction video for each artist is talk a little bit about my experience with them, when I got into them, maybe a few key releases, and you know, just what I like about their music, what I like about them, and just a little bit about their back history. So Chris Brann was a American house producer who was born and raised in Atlanta, and he started releasing around about 1994. And if you know about his music or you don't, he's released on some classic labels like Strictly Rhythm, K7 Records, Kelli Hand's Acacia Records, Peace Frog, who I just mentioned, Night Grooves, Guidance Records, Ubiquity Records, Earth Recordings, like some really great deep house labels. And Chris Brann does a little bit of deep house and also future jazz and sort of like future house music. And, you know, he kind of blends in between those two depending on his name that he records under. He records under his name. He records under Wamdue Project, Wamdue Kids again. He's responsible for some classic tracks, you know, in his career. Tracks like King of the Castle, Cascades of Color, Falling for You. And my most favorite Chris Brann production called Memory and Forgetting, which was on Sounds Records in 1998. Fantastic record. I have quite a few of his CDs, his albums, and I do have an occasional few EPs. From about 1995 to about 2005, he was one of my favorite deep house producers of all time. And you'll see as some of the videos or some of the albums that I'll do reviews on here on the channel, you know, his style changed a little bit over the years. And then around 2005, 2007, with his last album, I think it was called Fireflower, I stopped following him, and it was I could sort of see the evolution of his style becoming a little bit more, I wouldn't say mainstream, but a little bit more, I mean, I wouldn't even say polished, because being polished in your production isn't a bad thing, but I feel like it became a little bit started in kind of a warehouse sound or more of an underground sound, maybe even tied to techno a little bit, because there was some of his music, especially Wamdue Kids, which I think was verging on tech house, even though it was still deep house. And he also did some tracks that were kind of a little bit electro and again, a little bit more techno. So I feel, of course, he did some stuff that also sounds a little bit more disco. But as his style evolved, it just become again a little bit more polished, but maybe just a little bit more mainstream and a little bit more house than deep house. And his productions are really stellar. I mean, he's a really strong producer, and I really like the way he makes his songs sound like songs. They're not just like up and down and it's like a house track and it's pretty much very minimal. Like he kind of has like a chorus type feel where there's some bridges and they kind of end and they feel like songs. Like especially because he uses lyrics a lot. He uses some really strong singers as well. Gaelle, I'm blanking on her name. Gaelle Adisson, who recorded on Naked Music. Also Terrance Downs, who does some really good songs with them. Heather Johnson is her name. She also sings on a few tracks throughout his career. So he's had some really good, strong singers. And I really like instrumental deep house music, but I'm not necessarily opposed to having lyrics on a house song. I get it. It's house's evolution, evolving of disco, and disco had a lot of lyrics and singing and stuff. And it's not like I don't like house music with lyrics and singing. In fact, Chris Brann is a good example of an artist that I do like. In fact, probably a couple of his favorite tracks of mine, my favorite tracks of his have vocals in them. So I'm not necessarily against it, but sometimes in his tracks they become a little bit too, I don't know, again, just sort of a little bit more mainstream. But, I think he's a fantastic producer. And again, he was really key to me becoming a big Deep House fan. And so I'll never forget his music. And I always really enjoy listening to his albums. And the great thing about his albums is you can play them and they flow really well. They can be background music. They can be dance music. They can be verging on club music. Like he does a really, and then also there's also like a down tempo feel to all of his albums. As far as like a good home listening CD. And I'm going to review some of the albums I know, but and then do it probably a top 10 or top 20 favorite Chris Brann tracks of all time. But for the most part, I'm just going to review the albums that I know and that I have of his. I do want to include one that I don't have, just to kind of, because there was one when I was going through his albums that I have, which is about probably about 8 albums. I have the CDs here. There's one album that I didn't have that in that particular time of 1995 to 2006 that I didn't have. There was also another one that I didn't have, but I think that was more of a compilation. But I'll have to double check that. It's the other one under Wamdue Kids, the first album under Wamdue Kids. But yeah, so I wanted to review his albums that I have, and if somebody suggests an album that I haven't reviewed or I don't have, and that's fine, and I'll do that. But for now, I just want to review the ones that I have, and also do like a top 20 list of my favorite Chris Brann tracks, and kind of leave it there. And so that's a brief overview of Chris Brann's career and what I know about it. I know he's still doing music for the last 20 years, even though I'm kind of reviewing music and interested in music in his first 10 years. He's still doing music. And definitely a really strong producer that you check out. I'm hoping to check out more of his newer stuff in the future. But I'd like to do, kind of get out the reviews of the albums that I do have.